don't get to talk about books and shit like this a lot in my life on this podcast because it's like, yo, do you read? No. All right, let's move on. I read 3 books every 4 years. Moving
And if
on.
they mention 48 Laws of Power, that's not a book. You can literally open it and start at any part of that book.
No,
That's
I've read every word of that book. It is a great historical database of things to Google. I don't care what anyone says. The parts where you break, if you read the book, it's lit.
Yes.
I read every
I feel
word
like
of
it's
it.
a self-help book.
It
but
is.
Then again, what do I know?
I
it has helped me.
A lot of Robert Greene's work being read to me versus reading it. So I have the Laws of Human Nature on Audible, and it's way better. 48 Laws of Power.
I know what Fendi's talking about though, which is like, I'm tired of the men that exist in the world that are just like, always spouting like 48 Laws of Power shit that is just like,
so,
bro.
Like, I hate the way people talk about that shit. I don't even know
why you're like quoting 48 Laws of Power. Like,
so it bothers me because
like,
they quote this shit so
bro.
wrong.
Like,
nobody read the book.
That book like it's the Bible, and it's like, no, fam. Like, your absence is really not going to gain you anything.
But it's
it's like when I see, it's like when I see a guy like modern day negging a woman. Like it's 1999 and he just watched an MTV special, like teaching him to do that shit. And it's just like, bro, just sit down. Like just chill out. Like, we get it. You fucking learn to think for yourself.
It is the hype.
All I can say about like 48 Laws of Power is the way people talk about it is not the book I read. It's like when people talk about the Bible, and I'm like, bro, you didn't read the Bible. You listen to some people talk about some interpretation of the Bible, and that's what the fuck you're talking about. Because
or you analyze the book in a whole different way, because I was reading it. I read a lot of his books to kind of get a sense of what the hype was about, and also to know if I was to use these tactics, how keen do I have to be of human behavior to know, okay, this is going to work for this person, or this tactic is going to work for that person. Like, you have to really be good with human behavior and like sociology to really kind of encompass that book.
That shit to me is a defense book, and everyone acts like it's an offense book. And I use that at work all the time. To me, it is, that book alone is absolutely gained me a significant increase in everything in my corporate life. Why? Because if you use it in the corporate world, these people are sharks with second mortgages. Like, you are dealing with some Machiavellian shit. And the very introduction to 48 Laws of Power that nobody ever talks about is, I actually hate this shit. But frankly, like in Machiavelli's The Prince, there are bad people in the world. And if you're naive, kind of like me, it's kind of helpful for you to understand how the sharks maneuver the waters. And it gives you a lot of detail. And I read that motherfucker, and I started applying it at work. Like, first thing was, don't outshine the master. It's so obvious until you think about the times you're cocky in front of your boss. And I stopped being cocky in front of my boss after that day. And I never once corrected him or anything publicly again. He loves me now way more than he used to. So I started doing these things for positive manipulation. And it has basically got me to the position where I'm sitting here talking to you. That book has been extremely helpful, but it's not an offense book. Art of Seduction is more of an offense book, and it's a weird one. But 48 Laws of Power is straight defense. And that's why it bothers me the way people talk about it.
The Art of War and the other Robert Greene book, the Art of Seduction is some crap.
Yeah, the Art of Seduction is weird.
Yeah.
Helpful, but weird. It's not what people think it is. It's more like, if you're a marketer, read that book. You're going to be a better marketer.
I definitely like how they reference Malcolm X and how he captivated a lot of his followers through what he said. He was very influential. So what I learned was with that book, just learning how to kind of appeal to people. Because they even break down like, what was his name? Charlemagne. He wasn't the most attractive man, but he had all the women on him. So just learning how to kind of like maneuver in society and stuff like that. Knowing what your niche is in society too. Knowing if you're the playmaker or if you're the...
I'm a dandy. I learned I'm a fucking dandy. I read that shit and I'm like, oh shit, I'm a dandy. And Flacco's a dandy too. We fucking dandying up this shit right here. But it was super helpful to understand how to I'm better at content because of that book.
Mm-hmm.
Like so like I hear people criticize it. It just tells me that they didn't read the book.
I mean, listen, I think that what it is that like for like you said, right? Like for you, right? You might have been naive to like the evils of the world.
Facts.
Like for like somebody like me or like Fendi or like anybody who grows up in New York City, you kind of don't grow up blind to that. You kind of grow up like seeing it all around you at all times. So you're hyper aware already by the time you're like 7 about like the fucked up shit of the world. You know, like you've already seen so much fucked up shit that you kind of, and I think that that's what it is for New Yorkers. It's like hard to like appreciate it because we already call bullshit, see bullshit. Like we, you know, like we have this keen sense, like soon as we meet a person, whether or not like, you know, you think that they, you know, are of a certain breed of a person or whether or not they're like, maybe like not like of the streets. And it's just, you can tell things easier. So it's just like 48 hours of power is just like, bro, I don't need that shit. Like,
it was a good read, though. It was a good read. It was.
You know? But like,
it's
I think
definitely
that's
not like the one book that I'm like, yeah, that's like so like.
Yo, no. Robert Greene had no idea it was going to turn out the way it did. Like, he's bamboozled by it. But he leveraged that into spending a year with 50 Cent. And that 50th Law book is Littyyy. It is one of the greatest of the... It's possibly the best Robert Greene book.
I definitely don't want the audiobook for that. I definitely want a physical copy of that.
Yo, it's got like gold trimmings. They 50 made sure that shit was nicer than everything else he did.